Are we, all right. Go here. Go real close. How does this happen? What is that? Okay, I'm ready. Hey sweet breezes and jujubezes. Welcome to the new and improved Ask Anima that we are now calling Q and J. For those of you who are longtime fans of this channel, you know that we just changed the name of this channel from the Anima series to John Jorgensen. If you want to know why we did that, you can click this right here and you can find out why. But if you've been watching this channel for a while, you know we do this thing called Ask Anima, where you ask me questions and then I make videos answering those questions. Q and J is the same exact thing, except it's called something different since we're no longer called the Anima series. It's called Q and J because my name is John and my name starts with a J, and Q and A is a kind of a phrase that people use, so we're doing Q and J because it's funny and it's quippy and it's kind of like a pun. Let's get to some questions. Not nearly as important as most people make them. That's my answer. If you've watched this channel long enough, you've probably heard me say that faith in God has very little to do with emotions, and it has a whole lot to do with trust. The truth is, I can't always feel God, because I can't really choose when I feel His presence and when I don't feel His presence. It just sort of happens sometimes, and it doesn't happen others. I can't choose when that happens. What I can choose is when I trust God. I can always make the choice to trust God, even when I don't feel Him. In fact, one of my definitions for faith is choosing to trust God, even when I don't feel Him. And by the way, any committed relationship that is based on emotions is probably not going to be very committed for very long. Like, if I only conversed with or spent time with or served my wife when I felt like it probably wouldn't be a very successful marriage. Our emotions in a given moment don't play nearly as big of a part in our marriage as the choice we have made to love one another despite our emotions sometimes. And I think that a relationship with God, or any other committed relationship, is much the same way. The love that you bear one another has much less to do with the emotions you feel in the moment, and a lot more to do with the choice you have to trust and love one another. Let's move on. Again, what is that? So to me, a good friend is trustworthy, selfless, and loving. Trustworthy meaning that they're honest with you and you feel comfortable confiding in them if need be. And when I say selfless, I mean that they're willing to put their needs before yours at times, just as you are willing to put your needs before theirs. And when I say loving, I mean that they're always looking out for your good or for the good of the relationship at all times. Even when you're having disagreements or even when you're having arguments, they're never fighting against you. They're fighting against the problem for the relationship or for your good. And by the way, we should strive to be these three things to our friends as well. If we want our friends to be good friends, we have to be good friends back to them. That's part of being a good friend. And I think that most people's misconception, especially young people, the misconception we have about friendship is we think we need to be friends with everybody. But just because you love everybody doesn't mean you have to be friends with everybody. In fact, if you look at Jesus, who I think we could all agree was maybe a pretty good example of loving people, if you look at Jesus' life, you'll see that his circle of friends was actually quite small. He had his 12 disciples. And even beyond that, in certain sections of scripture, you'll see that that circle gets even smaller, down to just 3 people, Peter, James, and John. They're the ones who Jesus took to the top of the mountain for the transfiguration. So just a little side tangent here. It is quite possible to love everybody, but it doesn't mean that you have to be friends with everybody. In fact, I would even go as far to say that if you are trying to be friends with everybody, that will often get in the way of you loving everybody. The first episode of Q&J is dropping dimes. Dimes of wisdom. Not really. What's next? Okay, one thing that I think we have to clarify first about this question is when we say take people out of our lives, what do we mean exactly? Do we mean that someone we're close to did something stupid, like committing a crime or breaking a vow, and now they're in jail, or there was a divorce and now they're no longer a part of our lives? Or is it because someone was tragically killed by the actions of someone else, like a murder? And if this is the case, if this is the reason why we're asking the question, then I would really encourage you to not blame God for what man decided to do. Now, if we're talking about someone who died tragically from a sickness or something like that, something that was outside of man's control, then I'm not really sure that's an answer I can give you. I don't know why stuff like that happens. I don't know why young people get sick or people die young, or even old people for that matter. I don't know why sometimes we lose people that we love. I know for me, I believe and I trust in God. Now, that doesn't mean it makes it any easier when tragedy strikes. But what it does mean is it means that tragedy does not have the final word. So I'm sorry that I can't really give an answer if that is the situation you're struggling with. But what I can do is I can encourage you that that tragedy in your life, it does not have the final word. God has the final word. Okay, so I believe that each and every individual human being is created as a creative being. If God is the creator of the universe, that means that God is creative. And if we, as Genesis says, are made in his image, that means we are made in the image or in the likeness of a creative being. Therefore, we are inherently creative beings. So asking me how I stay creative, to me, that's like asking me how I stay human. It's not something that I stay, it's just something that I am, and it's something that you are. A better question might be, how do I unlock creativity at a high level? And for me, that comes from establishing a practice. If you want to be a writer, or a businessman, or a photographer, or anything that has to do with something creative, then you have to begin to develop a consistent practice for developing your technique. And if you can, I would suggest making that consistent practice something you do every single day. Sit down and write a certain amount of words every single day at the same time, or start a photo of the day blog, or keep office hours for your creative self. Because you see, you can't wait for inspiration to strike to start creating. That's how we all have the creative process backwards. The process is not inspiration strikes and then I start creating. The process for me actually usually is I start creating because I have a daily practice, and then because I have the creative juices flowing, then inspiration strikes. So to review, it's not inspiration strikes and then I start creating. It's start creating and then out of that inspiration will strike. But that will only come when you get into a daily practice. And then once you get into the practice, the progress will come. Thanks so much for watching Q&J. I hope 2016 is treating you incredibly, incredibly well. I do truly hope you would consider watching some of our other videos, also subscribing to our channel, and in fact, you're gonna get a chance to do that right now. Oh, don't just think just because Ask Anima is over that there won't be any dancing. There's gonna be dancing.